Okay, so a quick guide on how to program the Fleck SXT controller that comes on the softener valve supplied through Backwash. This isn't a be all and end all on how to set up your water softener, but for Backwash customers this is how we've been setting them up for use on the car wash. So the first thing we'll look at on the display here, you can see it scrolls between two numbers. One is the time of day and the other one is the capacity that's currently left in the softener as it's been set. So if we want to adjust the parameters or to set it up from scratch, first thing we've got to do is set the time of day to 12:01 PM. So to change the time of day, you push and hold either the up or down arrow. It takes you into TD, time of day setting. We'll set that for 12:01 PM. Then we push the cycle button to get back into service mode. So in service mode with the time of day set at 12:01 PM, if we push and hold the up and down arrows together, that'll take us into master programming. And in master programming, this is where we can set up all the parameters. So the first one it gives us is DF, which stands for display factor. It's set at gallons, that's where we'll leave it, but you can use the up down arrows to scroll through the various options. We'll leave it at gallons because the hardness test kit that we supply gives a result in hardness in grains per gallon. So we'll leave the format at gallons, makes it easier. We use the cycle button to scroll through the various parameters. So the next one we get is VT, that stands for valve type. DF1B stands for downflow 1 backwash, which is what we want. This controller can be used to control a number of different valve types, and depending on which one you got, you scroll through and choose the appropriate. But in our softener situation, we want downflow 1 backwash. The next thing we have is CT, which is control type. FD, flow delayed. Again, this is what we want. What it does is it measures the flow through the softener, and then it delays the regeneration to happen at night time on the day that it reached capacity. Your other options are flow immediate, that's where it would do a regeneration immediately on reaching capacity, or you can set it up on time clock, specific days of the week, but we want flow delayed for the car wash situation. Next thing we've got is NT, number of tanks. So we're using this in a single tank system, so we'll leave it at 1, but you can also have it on 2 tank systems. C is capacity, the total capacity of the softener in grains that it can remove from the water. So every cubic foot of resin that you put in the softener can take 20,000 grains of hardness from the water. So we do usually a 5 or a 7 cubic foot softener. So if this was a 5 cubic foot softener, it could remove 5 times 20, 100,000 grains. So we'll set it to 100,000. H for hardness, so this is where you put in the hardness of the incoming water. So you use your hardness test kit, test the water, whatever result you get, you input it here. Just say it was 2, we're in Melbourne just now. Melbourne hardness is usually around about 2 grains per gallon, so we'll leave it at 2. RS, this is your reserve. So this, when it reaches its reserve, it will tee up a regeneration to happen that night. And you can set the reserve 2 different ways, safety factor or reserve capacity. So reserve capacity is where we give it a specific volume, but we've been using safety factor where you give it a percentage. So if we scroll to the next, that lets us set what the safety factor is, and we've been setting that at 20%. So that means that when the softener gets within 20% of its total capacity, it will tee up a regeneration to happen that night, so just so that it doesn't run out of soft water the next day. Next thing we have is day override. So this is where you can set it to override all the other settings, and regardless of what happens, you can tell it every 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, whatever you want to do a regeneration anyway. We'll leave that at off. RT, regeneration time, set for 2 AM, which is what we want. Does it in the middle of the night when the car wash is quiet and you don't want to be using the water for anything else. Then this is where we set up the various functions of the regeneration. The first one, BW, is the backwash. It's set at 10 minutes, we'll leave it at 10 minutes. Next one is BD, brine draw, so that's how long it draws the salty water from your brine tank. And we usually find 30 minutes is enough time to draw all the salty water from the brine tank, so we set it at 30. And the next one is RR, rapid rinse. So that's where once it's drawn all the salty water from the brine tank, it does a rinse of your softener to flush any salty water that's left in the softener out. We'll set that at 10 minutes. Next is BF, which is brine fill, so that's how long it's going to put water back into your brine tank to dissolve more salt, ready for the next regeneration. And we set that usually at 8 minutes. Now we've got FM, which stands for flow meter. So different flow meters can come on your softener. We're using turbine flow meters, and in this case it is a 1.5 inch turbine, so that's what T1.5 stands for, turbine 1.5 inch. We do a smaller softener with a 1 inch turbine, which case you change it to T1. So you need to know the size of your turbine, but in this case it's a T1.5. Push it once more, and that's taking us back out into service mode. And the thing you've got to remember is we changed the time to 12:01 PM to set this up. So once you've set it and you're back into service mode, you've got to set the time of day again back to whatever it happens to be. Okay, that's how to set up your Fleck SXT controller on the softener.